Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of MINDFLEX. I'm Dom, founder of MINDFLEX and Sport Psychologist, and today I'm going to touch on goal setting in just a little bit more detail from the previous episode. A really important point is don't rush goal setting. Sometimes I'll do goal setting workshops and I'll see people just completely rush that process. It's really important to really do that mental groundwork first before you actually put pen to paper. And the reason I say that is because you want to be really mentally invested in your goal. And that's why I bang on about the why, and the why is so important behind anything we do. But the other thing which we addressed last video is that when hard things happen, and it will happen, hard things do happen in sport, you want to really have a solid foundation to land on if things go badly or they don't go to plan. So before you even write that goal down, have a real think about this. Is this goal actually for me? Am I doing this because I really want to do it? Or is this goal for approval, or comparison? Is it for others? Is it sort of pressures that you might have? Because research tells us that if you are intrinsically motivated, so it's coming from you, it's coming from your heart, your values, your why, you are going to be a lot more motivated and a lot more committed to that goal long term. And that leads to that persistence and that satisfaction as well. You could do a quick values test now. Have a think about a few things that you really deeply value and enjoy in your sport. Those factors can be like an anchor that grounds you in your sport and what you do. In those really tough training days where motivation's sort of starting to run a bit thin, that is when you want discipline to kick in. If you build your house of discipline on just sticks and thin material, it's going to blow over when your motivation starts to go down and when training starts to get hard and life starts to affect you, then it's going to really shake that foundation, right? But if you made that house of motivation and discipline and consistency, if you made that out of some solid material because you did all the groundwork now, then it's going to take a lot more to shake your foundation. So ask yourself, reaching this particular goal, how are you going to feel in the process? How are you going to feel when you achieve it? Who do you want to become during this process? And like we addressed last video, what is worth sacrificing to actually get there? We want to anticipate that there will be obstacles. It's not going to be perfect. And like we addressed last video, we don't want that all or nothing or that perfectionistic mindset. We want to go in and know that things are up and down, they zoom around, but you can still get to where you want to go. So alongside visualizing the success, you also want to be able to expect and anticipate that life will happen in between. So there's all sorts of things that could get in the way, doubts, fears, injuries, all sorts of different barriers that pop up. So anticipating those and planning for those is important because it helps with your mental toughness as well. You want to plan how you'll respond to that and then know how you're going to get back on the horse and go towards those goals anyway. Now, I specifically want to get into a few tools today to help you with planning these goals. When you think of that big goal, that big vision that really excites you, I want you to have it somewhere, visualize it, put it up on the wall, put it in your MINDFLEX journal, whatever you want to do. But then I also want you to take a moment to then shrink that a little bit while still keeping that in place somewhere. But I want you to shrink it in your mind to those little tasks, those micro commitments that you can make on the daily and the weekly to actually go towards that goal. Because you don't want to overreach so much right now that it really feels impossible when you start actually doing those little tasks because you haven't set out the little tasks properly. That's when athletes might go really big, but then they might burn out in the process because they can see that end vision, but they don't know how they're going to get there. If you have not run in a long time, but your big goal is to do a marathon, then I wouldn't suggest that you go out straight away and start running 5 days a week. And maybe that's what you'd work up to, but you wouldn't do that straight away. That small step might be that on a Monday, you're going to put your shoes on and you're going to run around the block for 10 minutes. And that's still way more than what you're doing if you're not running at all. Because you want to build trust in yourself that when you commit to do something, you're actually going to go out and do it. Whereas if you were doing that 5 runs every week from zero, then you're going to end up injuring yourself, or you're going to end up being quite fatigued because your body isn't taking that time to adjust to that training load. So it's better that you plan realistically and you shrink it back and you really schedule in those tasks that you got to do that's going to move you towards it. Think of this as like micro commitments to yourself during the week. And a side note to that, just because you're starting small and doing these micro commitments to yourself doesn't mean that you're not capable of something amazing down the track. It's just you want to actually do it in a digestible amount that you can actually do it. Of course, you want to push that comfort zone as you do these small tasks, but you don't want to go from zero to full-blown goal tomorrow. And that can come down to a bit of patience too and trusting the process, or delayed delayed gratification, so to speak. You want to also tie that goal setting to who you are as well. You're the type of athlete who sets that goal and they stick to it because they're committed to themselves, they're committed to health, they're committed to that value. Because often it's those sort of goals that will help you to stay on track. You could ask yourself a question like, what part of me do I want to engage to make sure that I reach that goal? Is it that real committed, fierce athlete? Is it the athlete who doesn't want to let themselves down? Is it the athlete who loves to accomplish things? What part of you is in there that you want to ignite that fire? Then set those habits that reinforce that identity or that spark within you. I'm that type of athlete that shows up no matter how I feel. Could be one of them, for example. Another tip is to keep your goals visible. There's a part in your brain called the Reticular Activating System. Now this system is like a funnel that helps you to focus. It filters for information and it helps you to focus on what is deemed important based on our intentions and our goals. So when we set really clear and specific goals, that system helps us to prioritize and line up those opportunities that line up with those particular goals. It helps us to know the relevant resources and actions that are going to help us towards them. This is by filtering information, like filtering out any irrelevant sensory information, help us with heightened awareness of these specific goals and these opportunities to achieve them, to help us with motivation and action towards them, to be clear about them, to help us with visualizing them. We want to use this natural system in our brain as much as we can, and to do that we've got to work out how it works. If you set really clear and specific goals, then you can leverage that system, because we're telling our brain to focus on those things to enhance that focus, that motivation, and that ultimately that success of actually achieving those goals. Now, if we weren't specific about the goals, the brain is not going to filter out all that information. The brain is just going to take it broadly and not know what you really want. So you want to tell your brain exactly what you want. To help your brain filter and to focus on these things, it's important that you put those goals somewhere that you can see it. Some people put their goals on their mirrors or their phone screens. They might pair those goals with some mantras, for example, that they repeat to themselves, like strong, focused, competitive, confident, whatever those mantras are that remind you of those goals that you want. For example, I have a photo here of someone running the Sydney Marathon and they're running into the Opera House. Now that is my goal this year. I look at that every single day and that excites me to go and run it myself. The other thing, you want to build that mental muscle. We put a lot of time as athletes into muscle growth, into protecting our tendons, our ligaments, all of that effort that goes into that injury prevention, into being stronger athletes. We want to put that effort up here as well. Those smaller actions that we take and routine can often be more important than motivation itself. So try to create an environment that's based on that discipline and that commitment to your goals. Because as we know, mood can go up and down. Sometimes we don't even have control over our own moods or our own emotions. Let's not rely just on mood. Ask yourself, what are a couple of things that I can do weekly that are non-negotiable? Make these challenging but realistic enough that you can actually do these things regularly and commit to yourself. With my Sydney Marathon coming up next month, I have to commit to doing these runs every single week up until the lead up. Unless something drastic happens and I'm pretty injured and I can't do it, I have to commit that to myself, because it's actually, well, it's an important ingredient to actually get to the end. The other important thing is to track your progress and to evaluate that regularly. Again, this is why we actually created the MINDFLEX journal to begin with. Even brief journaling will help you with your self-awareness. What's working for you? What's hard? What needs adjustments or tweaking? Let go of the all or nothing mindset. It's really not helpful. Consistency really does beat perfection. Did you miss a day in your training? Well, that's okay. This is a perfect opportunity to bounce back and show yourself that you can show up the next day. You do not need to quit, because even elite athletes, they are not perfect. They're just resilient. They have trained themselves. So goals are not just about writing them down. It's about living them. It's about them being alive. Before you set them, make sure you pause, make sure you really think on them, reflect on them, and set a really solid foundation, because it really does make a huge difference if you do it properly. Once you do that and you write them down, you are halfway there already. A couple of things you can think about at the moment is, what do I care about most in my sport? What fear is holding me back right now? Can I combat that fear? What will success feel like? What am I willing to do to get there? What small action can I take today that my future self will thank me for? Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of MINDFLEX the Movement. It's a pleasure to share this information with you. Thank you again, and welcome to the community.